So thank you so much for joining us for this QuickBooks class. I think, the team between myself, Yvette, and Alika thought how important it was to put together a QuickBooks class because a lot of our small businesses are using QuickBooks to run their everyday business. So this is for our clients only because it is high level, and we have a QuickBooks certified advisor here, Shalonda Leggett, to be able to present to you and also ask any questions that are related to QuickBooks. And so I'll allow Shalonda to be able to share a little bit about her background and talk about, we got connected actually because she was referred by QuickBooks, the QuickBooks Certified Pro Advisor Directory. And so that's how we were able to connect with Shalonda. But I will hand it over to Shalonda to share more about herself and her level of expertise when it comes to QuickBooks. Shalonda?
Hey, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I have been in the financial industry for over 20 years. Started off bookkeeping, then went into taxes, and just that's where I've been at my whole life, practically. So I have a tax firm in Phoenix, and I do online services as well. But again, my background is any financial transactions, bookkeeping, accounting, payroll, taxes, with anything numbers. I love them. So that's a little bit about me. All right. Any questions before we go ahead and get started with the presentation? Before we get started, there's going to be a slideshow, but we're also going to go into a sample QuickBooks account so you guys can see how things actually work in real time. Okay. And I am all good for questions, so I will have like points where I'm going to ask questions within, because I don't like to wait to the end, because then we're going to be scrambling, going back into slides or probably different places. So again, please feel free to ask questions. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let me know if you guys can see it okay. All right. We're good. All right. QuickBooks 101, go from a novice to financial pro. How many of you guys use QuickBooks on a daily basis? Or supposed to use it on a daily basis, but yeah, you guys have it. Okay, that's always a good thing. All right, perfect. So we will go through, because I don't know the skill level of everybody here, so we're going to have a couple of things about how to set up things within QuickBooks when you're first setting it up, or even if you need to make changes. But then we'll go into like the nitty-gritty things, okay? So I'm going to kind of breeze over some stuff, but definitely stop me if you need me to stop, okay? All right. And again, a little bit about me. QuickBooks Online Certified Pro Advisor, certified with the IRS in a couple of areas as well. So we're going to navigate QuickBooks. We're going to talk about charts of accounts, products and services, your vendors, expenses and purchases, time tracking, customers and sales. So to break that down, that is basically your accounts payable, your accounts receivable. So we'll talk about a couple of those things and how to kind of link some of those things within QuickBooks to your chart of accounts so they're reporting correctly. Quick fact, did you know 20% of small businesses fail within the first year? Why? Most likely financials. People do not keep up with their money well. They don't know what's coming in. They don't know what's going out. So that's why bookkeeping is really important, and QuickBooks makes that very simple. Like back in the day, you have journal entries and these books that you have to keep track of. Now everything is practically automated. You put one thing in and it puts it where it needs to go. All right. So our learning objectives here in navigating, we're going to recognize the steps to manage accounting settings, identify accounting related preferences, because you can set preferences. You can set preferences on how you want your invoices to look. put your logo on your invoices. There's a lot of different things that you can do within there.
So where's it at?
All right.
It's in Phoenix.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to mute yourself, because this is being recorded, I don't know if you want us to hear your conversation. Perfect. So I'm going to be working out of a couple of demo accounts, and they are linked here, and you guys will have access to these links as well. If you want to play around in QuickBooks and not mess up your account that you already have established, you guys are more than welcome to play in the test drive accounts. So you have your dashboard when you initially log in, so that should look familiar to most people. And it kind of gives you a snapshot of what's going on in your business, from your invoices, your expenses, your profit and loss, and then your bank accounts that you have linked into QuickBooks. So again, I told you it's going to be some slides about signing in. I don't know if you guys are aware of the app that you can use in addition to the desktop application. The app is good because if you are one of those companies that need to track mileage, you can track mileage through the app. There's a couple of different things that you'll set up. Like I said, I'm going to breeze through these sections, so I'm not boring you with things that you've already done. So again, this is just kind of what the interface looks like. So the gear icon, that is your friend, that is your account and settings. You can manage users, customize your form style, set up chart of accounts, create your product and service list, any recurring transactions, any attachments. You can find them here, as well as order checks and all that good stuff. So you just have the different features that you may be setting up. Let's see, so your company information can change. So you can always go back in and edit, add your website. If your tax forms change, you can change that in the settings as well. And then if your subscription change, or if you need to add different things to your subscription, such as payroll or online payments, time tracking, you can all do that within your account and settings tab. And then it also keeps your usage as far as how many users that you can have set up on your account, as well as how many chart of accounts you have set up. And then just some sales features that you can customize. You can put late fees in, progressive invoicing, set reminders, online delivery options, as well as statement settings. And then your expenses as well. You can customize some things there. And then if you have QuickBooks payments set up, you can change the accounts and all that other good stuff where you have the money go to. But if you don't have QuickBooks payments set up, you can set it up here as well. And these are just some advanced settings and formatting. If you go off a particular fiscal year, you can change that as well, like I said, in your tax forms. I'm going to breeze through these. And you can manage users. So say, for instance, I don't want to do QuickBooks by myself anymore. I'm going to hire somebody to do my bookkeeping and maintain QuickBooks. You can send them an accounting invite from here under your manage users. And you will go to the accounting firm and you'll send them an email, and then they'll get access to your QuickBooks without having to use your login or you give away any passwords. And again, these are the custom forms, so you can set different colors and logos for your invoices and statements. And again, set up different accounts for your chart of accounts. So is there any questions about the accounting settings when navigating or setting up things in QuickBooks? Yes.
I have a question, Shalanta. How important is it to have the proper chart of accounts when you first set up QuickBooks? And my second is to that is if it's already been set up, can it be changed and modified after to remove certain chart of accounts?
Yes, it is very important because it helps you have accurate reports. And it helps the transactions to feed into the correct place. So your asset accounts, your liability accounts, your cash accounts, all those things are important. So, but yes, you can always make changes. You can add, you can delete, you can reroute. So that's what you can do here in the settings. And we'll get in and look at that when we get into the demo account, how you can do those things. Was there any other questions in this section? All right, perfect. So these are
I've
just
got
a
a,
couple.
I got
Oh, go
a
ahead.
questions for you.
Mhm.
When we're under the gear icon at the bottom right, it says switch to accountant view or switch to the business overview. So what's the difference of these two?
And you're talking about here. Because you as a QuickBooks subscriber shouldn't have an accountant view, but it's possible that you may. The difference is that it just gives a different overview of the system that accountant may be more familiar with versus you as the business owner, especially when it comes to like year-end transactions or closing out books. So those options would be there for the accountant to do.
Okay. Yeah, because my tax lady, she's got access to this so that she can go in and do all my taxes and everything for me
Yes, yeah.
off of this. So,
Yeah.
but I was just first time I noticed that it was a business overview and accountant view.
Yeah, because you gave her that access to your account as an accountant, that's why you are able to see both of those options. So you see what she sees as well as what you see as the business owner. So,
Okay.
yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so there's not really any difference in
No,
either
it's
one
just
of them?
how it's viewed. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Shalonda, what is live bookkeeping on
Live
the previous
bookkeeping.
slide?
Yes, let's go back to that slide. So live bookkeeping is when you pay QuickBooks to do your bookkeeping for you.
Ah, okay. Got it.
I probably can't say this, but I'm going to say this. Live bookkeeping is why I have a job. Okay.
Okay.
Because they have a lot of limitations on what they can do. So it's only going to go so far. If your situation is like very, very, very simple, they may can get you somewhere. But I've had so many clients come over from live bookkeeping and their chart of accounts were messed up, their fees, everything was messed up. So do as you please, but it's an option. So So we're going to go and talk about the chart of accounts. So that was a good segue, Vanessa. Okay, so the learning objective here is to be able to establish, edit, and work with your chart of accounts. All right, so I am going to pause really quickly so I can pull up the live account so we can play in it, okay?
Shalonda, do you know where, or do you know what the Milio integration?
Milio integration, yes. that is one of those features, because there's so many things that you can integrate into your QuickBooks Online, depending on what services you use. So I know that's like a payment one. Then you have like bill pay. It's a lot of just different things you can integrate with it. So yes, I am familiar with that one.
It just popped up as notifications. It's replacing the Malaya integration in QuickBooks on December 4th.
Ooh, okay. Give me a second. I had it pulled up, but it logged me out while we were sitting waiting. So I'm logging back into it really quickly. Bear with me a second. All right, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So we are in a live demo account, and we are going to go to the dashboard. Again, this is what it looks like when you first come in. Most of the time, unless you have anything like customized. So we are going to go into our chart of accounts, and you're going to find that under your transaction tab. We'll come down here. And depending on how you set up your account when you set up QuickBooks, if you told it a couple of things about your business, QuickBooks will pull the most common chart of account items for your business type and already have those pre-populated for you. So that's another good feature of using QuickBooks. But then you have things that you may have to add. Like for instance, if you see here, they have a truck category, which is a fixed asset. So then they have to calculate the depreciation as well as the basis, the cost of what they paid for it. So they have to set up a separate chart of accounts there. Then you may have different credit cards associated with the business, tax accounts, any loans and notes payable. So you'll set those ones up individually. And then you can categorize the different income categories that the business may have. So for instance, we are using a landscaping company. So they have the landscaping service, and then they break down their job materials. So you can do that. You can drill down on mostly everything that you need to drill down on with tracking income, tracking expenses for the things that you do for your business. And then you can go like labor, they do pest control. So that's another income source. So they can track that as well. And then advertising, automobile, like bank charges, commissions, all these are gonna be most likely pre-built in for you on QuickBooks. And then you can drill down the insurance, like if it's workers' comp, if it's liability insurance, things like that. And then your legal and professional services, you can drill down more. So if you're paying your accountant one thing, the bookkeeper, and then a lawyer, those things are there. And then the maintenance and repairs. So those are the kind of things that you would set up in your chart of accounts. Are there any questions on anything that I've covered so far with the chart of accounts that you guys want me to look particular in?
What was the very first one that you clicked on to get into all of that?
So I came to transactions. Maybe, hold on. I gotta go back because it likes to be funny. So transactions, and then we're gonna come down here to chart of accounts. And then you can set up new items. So say you have a new expense that you want to track. So we'll click new. And we want to click expense. And we'll show where we want to save the expense at. So say, for instance, we want to So we know that it's expenses. And then you can also match it up to the tax form sections that the expense would go in as well. So it could be we'll say insurance expense. And then we'll just name the account. Property insurance. And then it's going to give you a preview of what it will look like when you're there and you save it. And then now we should have that expense. Somewhere under, it should have went under insurance, but it might have just went under the general expense category. So that's why it's important to make sure you're answering all the questions correctly when adding accounts on here. But the good thing about QuickBooks, you can search everything in QuickBooks. And then we found it here, expenses, insurance. And then I can actually come in and I can edit it because I left my Y out, right? So I can edit. And then I can move it to where I actually really want it to go as well. Save. And then if we go back, I went too far back. Well, if we go back into the chart of accounts, and then now when we go down to insurance, we see property insurance. So you really can't break too much. Everything is fixable for the most part in QuickBooks. And what you can't fix, a pro advisor or your accountant can help you fix. So don't never feel too scared to play inside of QuickBooks. Are there any questions about the chart of accounts? And how to add different accounts into your chart of accounts and how to tag those things? Okay. So your most sacred categories are going to be your income categories, your expense categories. Those are going to be your most sacred things to pay attention to and to try to label and to probably want to keep track of, because you want to know what you're spending your money on, right? You want to know what's making you money in your business. So definitely, if you can separate those things so it can give you a better picture of how your business is doing.
I have a question. What about payroll? Can you share some information about payroll and how you go about importing your employees and tax information and all of that?
Yeah, that is a great question, and we will definitely get to payroll because it is on the agenda for us. So we'll definitely get there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any more questions before we leave out of the chart of accounts? I'm going to keep this on this screen, and then we're going to go back into the PowerPoint. Okay, so next we're going to talk about vendors, expenses, and purchases, which is basically things that you pay out. So again, we're going to talk about the best practices for recording transactions and how to have QuickBooks work in your favor. Determine your appropriate expense related settings, which we kind of already just did, and setting up the chart of accounts. And then recognize alternative entry points for entering transactions. There's many ways that you can do things in QuickBooks. There's not one way to get into things. You can go into a couple of different ways. So we're going to go back into our demo account. And then we're going to go here to along the side, we have expenses. And then we're going to go expenses. And then you have the different expenses that are most likely categorized from your bank feed. So setting up your bank feed is really important, and we will talk about that in a couple of slides down. But most of your transactions are going to be automated from your bank feed. There may be things that you have to manually enter.
I have a question, Shalonda.
Yes.
There's a question in the chat box from Fernando. How do you set up a line of credit?
How do you set up a line of credit in your chart of accounts? So line of credit would most likely go under a liability account. So let's see, let's go back to our transactions, and then we'll go to our chart of accounts. And then you'll go new. And then we're looking at liabilities. And that will be an account payable, transaction. And it's not a loan, it's going to be revolving. So there's going to be some special things that you may have to look into with that. Let's see. So we'll put notes, long-term liabilities. Note payable, business, line of credit. And you will put the starting date and then the opening balance as of that date. And then drilled. And then as you record the transactions, it will keep track of the balances for you. Did that answer your question, or did you need any further explanation on adding a line of credit inside of your chart of accounts?
So I think he said thank you. So every time you make a payment, you would just connect it to that line of credit?
Yes. So let's get out of it. I'm going to cancel out of here really quickly. So we're probably going to jump around. I like questions. So I feel like if you guys don't need the formal presentation and you guys want to just play around in QuickBooks and me answer all the questions here, I'm game for that. Just let me know, because it'll be easier, because some of the questions are going to come out of order from what the presentation is, if that makes sense. So let's go bank transactions. And say, for instance, let's see, we don't want the overview. I'm trying to find a transaction that they have on here that may be a payment. So we'll just use this one. So what you can do when you click on the transaction, you're going to categorize it. And then once you categorize it, you can leave this blank. You don't have to really put anything there, just depending on if there is a customer attached to it. But your goal will be to come here under the account and put it under the correct account. So we passed up liabilities. So we'll just say loan payable. So we put loan payable. And then now that we add that to loan payable. And then if we come back over to the chart of accounts, And we view the register or loan payable. You can see the transactions recorded under there. And then you may have to make journal entries, or your accountant may have to make journal entries to reconcile it. But as long as you set it up correctly, then it should record for you the correct increase and decrease to the balances. And if you guys have further questions on like setting up those things further, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help walk you guys through those things. Did that answer your question?
Yes, Shalonda, thank you.
Perfect. All right. So if we go back into our expenses, and this would be another way to do it too. So if it was a manual expense, you can just manually report that transaction as well as an expense. And new transaction. And then you find the category in which it goes to. And again, if it was the loan payable, then you'll just put the amount in and save it as well. So again, that's why I said there's a couple of different ways to do the same thing inside of QuickBooks. And other expense things that you have bills, you have vendors. So if you use vendors for supplies and things, you will set up a vendor account in here. So it's easy to match those transactions up. You also have contractors. So if you're paying contractors, you'll keep track of them in here. And I would pay, in all honesty, I would pay them through here versus as a bill or an expense, because paying them as a contractor inside of QuickBooks will automatically generate the 1099 that has to go out at the end of the year. So to keep track of all of those, so you don't have to manually go in and do those. And then it also tracks your mileage. And that's what I talked about a little bit at the beginning of the call, where if you use the app, it can track mileage for you. And it's a good thing to track it because 65 cents a mile reimbursement or expense is pretty good to me, because you need all, as a business owner, you need all the expenses you can get. All right, were there any questions under the expense section? And again, please feel free to ask any questions that you guys need to ask.
I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
If you bill for the mileage to the client, can you still deduct it as an expense, or is it an income at that point and it's not an expense, or you do both?
You would do both. So you would record it as an expense, and then you would record the payment from the client to offset it. So you'll offset it.
Okay.
Yeah. But you still would want to record it just in case they may not pay their invoice before the end of the year and you're stuck with that expense. You want to be able to get that right off. So it's good to still record it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about vendors, contractors, and expenses or mileage? All right, perfect. So like I said, I'm gonna kind of go a little bit from the slides and kind of just go, because they're kind of going in order anyway. So the next category we will have is customers and leads.
Shalonda.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to get my unmuted.
No,
quick.
don't feel bad. I do it all the time.
I had a VA officer tell me that if you put your logo and business on your vehicle,
Marketing.
then 100% of your mileage can be taken off your taxes. So if that's true, would you put that all on here, or how would you do that?
It depends on what you want. How do you want to track it? You can track it, the mileage, because that can be very cumbersome, right? You can track it that way, or you can use it as an advertising expense. Like if you're going to like a certain destination or like in a parade or different things, why you may have the decal on. So yeah, you can track the mileage as well. So either way, it's fine.
Well, I was doing it on the app,
Mhm.
and I don't know, sometimes it'd fall off and you get back home and it wouldn't be there and so forth. So, but then my friend told me about that, and he said, you don't have to keep track of your miles after that. If you just put your business on your vehicle, then even if you just running down a quick trip and back or something, you know, it's all trackable, whatever you. So would you just start, January 1st, I'm at this mileage, and at December 31st, I'm at this mileage, and then you'd have all those miles
So
that you could
would
take
want
off?
to keep track of it, because if you're ever audited, the IRS is going to want to know, how did you come up with these mileage, right? So tracking the mileage, if that's what you want to do, you can do mileage or you can do actual expenses. So you can keep track of like gas, maintenance, and all those things for the vehicle, and use that as your write-off, or the mileage, either or, but you can't do both. So you just have to kind of see which one works best in your situation.
Okay.
But you would definitely need to track it, because you always need written evidence.
Okay. So, okay.
Does that make sense, David?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So now we are in our customer category. Here you will get an overview of any overdue invoices. You can create estimates. You can add new customers. You can import customers, create a new invoice, and view your list of customers. So we are going to create an invoice. So when you're creating an invoice, if you already add that customer in, you'll have a drop down of all your customers. But say they're not in there, and you just add new, and just pop in a name, and you can come and fill out the details later if need be. So you don't have to worry about having every single piece of information in this section in order to get the customer added, if you're doing like a quick invoice situation. So we'll play with one that's already in here. We'll just do cool cars, sorry. So we have their email, billing address, the terms of the invoice date, and the due date. So you have your different terms: due upon receipt, your net 10, net 15, net 30, and net 60. And if you work off of different terms, you can add that in there as well. You're capable of creating recurring invoices also. And then you can tag different things about your customer to be able to filter certain things easier within a system. So then if you've put all your products and services that you offer inside the system already, you'll be able to just come to the drop-down menu and select what you're billing for. We'll say we're billing for pest control, $35. And then the description's there. But say it's something that you do not have in a system already, you can go add new. And then you should get this window that pops up along the side. And can everyone see this window okay? Where it says inventory, non-inventory, service, and bundle.
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Yeah, we see it.
Perfect. Yep. Because I can't see you guys because I'm sharing my screen. So y'all voices are like going to be my lifesavers today. So say, for instance, it is a service. that we're offering. And then we'll just put whatever that service is. And again, you can fill out the details later. Again, if you're just trying to get an invoice created, you can just put the name of the service and save and close and go about your business. And then come out and fill out details later. So if there's going to be sales tax that's on there, you can add that. Excuse me 1 second, I gotta sneeze, sorry.
I have a question while you're getting ready to sneeze.
Yeah, it won't come out though, so I'm sorry.
So let's say, okay, I'm doing my invoice. Now this is the second month they are overdue, and I am now at this point want to charge them interest because they have not paid on time. So how would I add that onto my current invoice?
So let's see. So that is when we talked about settings, when we were in the settings earlier. I don't know if we were on here. If you were on when we went through the different settings. Let's see. We're going to back out of here for 1 second so we can go back to the main screen. And it's a demo account, so this QuickBooks don't even really look like this from my vantage point anymore. Like they've changed it over the past few months. So we can come into our account settings. And it will do that while I'm on with you guys. Back out of here real quick. It's moving pretty slow, so maybe give it time to load up. But anywho, you're able to go in and charge late fees or interest. And I'll go back to the slides so you can see that. And I'll do that kind of in a little bit. But yes, you are able to go back in and add your late fees or your interest, however you set it up. So yep, I'll go back in just a little bit. All right, this thing is moving pretty slow. And you guys can still see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just getting back to that particular slide, so I'm not zooming through slides in front of you guys' face because that drives me crazy. 1 second. And it still did what I didn't want it to do. So I don't know if you can see here where it says late fees.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So yep, you can go in and turn that on. And then it'll appear as a line under the product and service on the invoice. And it'll apply to all customers. So if you want to set that policy, it has to apply to all customers.
Hmm.
Any other questions when it comes to the late fees or anything else while we're back over here in this section? Okay, perfect. We talked about the vendors, the expenses, and the purchases. Do any of you guys use QuickBooks to print checks or pay bills?
We do not.
Okay. Perfect. Printing checks is a pain in the butt, I'll be honest. So, but it's doable. You can do a lot in QuickBooks, but printing checks is a pain in the tushy. So next we're going to talk about time tracking employees and subcontractors. We talked a little bit about it when I spoke about the contractors under the expense tab, but we'll dive a little bit further into it. So in this section, you should be able to know how to enter time on a daily or weekly basis, process payroll from a time entry, determine if time is entered is billable, and then understanding billable time. So that'll have us back over in the software time overview. And everybody can see the QuickBooks again, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we'll have to launch QuickBooks time. And this is going to be in use as if you were billing somebody by the hour, by time. You would use this, and then you also would use it if you have employees that you are paying via time clock. So I'm just letting it load the demo information. And we won't spend a lot of time here. I just kind of want to show you guys what it looks like over here. And like I said, you guys will have access to these demo links to come in and play with it. But I want to just be able to touch on all our subject matters that we had set for today. So then in pay, you have your payroll tab. You'll add the employees. And you just turn payroll on. Payroll through QuickBooks is pretty simple. Once you give them all the permissions that they need, they can automatically do payroll for you. The only thing you would need to do is add the hours, and they will do all your payroll taxes and send them to where they need to go. And that'll be one less thing you have to worry about. So the demo account is not cooperating with us today for the payroll section. Then you have your taxes, you have your sales tax, and then your 1099 filing. Does anyone have to do sales tax for the state of Arizona?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Yes.
Okay. So you're able to track your tax categories inside of QuickBooks. And when you go to do those TPT reports, you can pull the exact numbers of where they need to go without having to do math, because QuickBooks will track it for you as long as you're putting the sales tax on the invoices if you're using QuickBooks for your invoices. And then let's see.
And Shalonda, there was a comment, and so it says, Wayne mentioned that he links his bank account and credit cards to be at the center of all his expenses and revenues. And he has QuickBooks do live downloads to his account and manage that way. Is this a good way to do it?
That's the best way to do it. Yes, that's my favorite way to do it because it's less work off of you. And then QuickBooks will try to recognize the categories in which those transactions would go. So it'll make reconciling and categorizing them very easy. So like if we go back here to bank transactions. So once you upload all your accounts or link all your accounts in QuickBooks, they'll all be across here. And you can toggle in between each account. And all the transactions, most likely within 24 hours should appear. And if not, you can do an update. And it'll update all the accounts. And then it also lets you know the last time each of these accounts were updated. Okay, so they're updating. So you have uncategorized expenses, uncategorized income. That's because QuickBooks could not recognize where it needed to go.
And do you suggest categorizing everything? Because what if there's some expenses that are not relevant to what you are trying to track for business purposes?
So you can create uncategorized expense category, and then you can drill down on that to be personal expenses or non-bill business expenses, however you want to label it, and then you can move those over there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Let's see. So this found a match because this customer sample had uploaded the receipt as well in QuickBooks. So it's already going to match it for you, and you just verify and hit match, and then it's done. But for instance, I'm looking for a transaction. Okay, we'll do this one. It's uncategorized. So we'll just come in. We know that it is a hardware store, so most likely it has something to do with repairs. So we can come in here and we'll find our repair and maintenance expense category. No, maintenance and repair. And then put it here. And you can drill it down on labor as well as material for the repair and maintenance, depending on how you want to set up your chart of accounts when it comes to those things. You'll put it there and then add. And now that transaction is where it needs to go to. Let's see. And the benefit of making sure everything is where it needs to be so your reports can look great. So let's go into our reports. These are going to be your typical reports, your balance sheet, your profit and loss, statement of cash flows. The one your accountant or tax person is going to love you for the most is your profit and loss statement. And you can go here, you can do year to date, or we say it's tax time, so we want to do last year. So we can, there's pre-filled reporting periods, or if you need a custom period, you can create a custom period. So for this example, we're going to use last year because we're looking to do taxes. So we'll run report. So there's no data, so we're just going to do this year to date. Then act like it's December already, right? All right. So then now you can see you have your income categories. And this customer tracks the materials. So it's going to be the income minus in the job materials. So that'll give that total. Then the cost of labor. And then the other subcategories like pest control, they sold a product, they provided a service, so that'll give their total income. And then cost of goods sold will be deducted from that. So then that'll give the gross profit. So that's the gross number. So then you'll have all the different expense categories, and all these should fall into a tax category that your tax person can just come over and look at to see where it needs to go. So this will be the total expense for legal and professional fees, total expense for job materials, total expense for automobile, meals and entertainment, office expenses, rent and lease, utilities. So then it gives the net operating, and if there's any other miscellaneous expenses that couldn't be categorized, it's the total of the income. So it's either going to be a profit or a loss, the net income. So this kind of gives you a snapshot. You can run one of these every month to see how your business is doing in that particular month. So let's go last month, run report. And what you probably really want to see, was I in the red or the black? So net income for last month was $1,481.28. So I would use this as a best practice to probably run one every month, depending on what kind of services you are, products you offer, and how often you're paid. So you can kind of know where you're at in real time, and not at the end of the year when tax time comes. This is also good for people that do estimated quarterly payments for their taxes, because you will come in. Let's see if we do last quarter run report. Net income of $79.55. And then you just calculate your taxes based off of that, and send the IRS the payment for your quarterly estimated tax payments to make sure that you stay in compliance. Any questions about the profit and loss statement or anything that I spoke of in this section?
No, there's no questions either in the chat as well, Shalom.
Perfect. So now we can go back to the report list. And then this is your balance sheet. Your balance sheet is your assets and your liabilities, and any owner's equity. So it gives you a snapshot of what the company looks like as far as what balances are in assets, what balances are in liabilities, to see if it's profitable.
You have to add vehicles there? Like
yes, you will add vehicles.
equipment.
Yep, vehicles, equipment, all your things that depreciate, your fixed assets. And then these are going to be your notes and lines of credits and credit cards and all that good stuff, and your tax liabilities, and then any long-term liabilities.
Shalom, I'm sorry. For
Yeah.
liabilities, do you suggest those who are using their vehicles and say are still paying for their vehicles and putting it under the business, do they put the total amount of the loan that is owed and also the payment, or just the value of the vehicle?
No, you will put the total amount of the vehicle, because that's your cost. That's the original cost of the asset. Regardless if you're making payments or not, that's still what you have to pay on the vehicle. So that's an expense to you.
Okay.
Yep. So you'll have, when it comes to things like that, you're going to have two deductions. You're going to have your depreciation, because you get to depreciate from the basis of the vehicle. And then you also get to have the note that you pay on that vehicle deductible. And then you also have any expenses related to the maintenance or the mileage, however you want to. So vehicles are very good investments in businesses. but also just make sure that the vehicle is in the name of the business. So your paper trail is good when it comes to the IRS. If that vehicle is not in the name of the business and it's in your personal name, you will kind of want to create a agreement between you, the person, and then the business, because you want to make sure that you are keeping yourself as a identifiable separate entity from your business for your liability protection to stay in place if you run in under an LLC or anything in that nature.
So that would be like a written agreement that
Correct.
the owner would put together and have an in paper trail
Yes.
for trail purposes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just purchased a new vehicle, but they had to put the vehicle under my personal name and my business name. I wanted it just under my business name, but for, I think, credit purposes, because my company is relatively new.
Mhm.
So I should be able to, deduct it now because it is under my business name also, right?
That is correct. Yes. That is correct. So you have the taxes, make sure you're keeping track of the taxes that you paid, as well with purchasing that vehicle. So, because you guys will be able to deduct those as well. So that gives me a segue. I'm going to go back to the profit and loss statement, because it is going to be a good year-end tool for you guys to use to see if you have money outstanding, if people need to still pay, and to see where your expenses are at, and just to see, because it'll give you a good estimate of how much taxes you're going to owe, or if you're even going to owe come January. So if you're not using QuickBooks daily, I would say at least weekly, try to categorize your transactions, because if you're a company that have a lot of transactions, they add up really, really quickly. And if you're waiting a month or 2 months or 3 months or at the end of the year to do that, that can be a whole lot of time taken out of your day to get those categorized. And then if you try to enlist the help of somebody, they're going to charge you based on how many categories they have to go in and fix for you on those transactions. So just a rule of thumb, try to at least touch your QuickBooks weekly. And then that way you can kind of see like, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that to lessen my income for the year? So just kind of keep you ahead of the game. And then I'm going to go back to our report list. And then we have statement of cash flows. So it's basically going to talk about money, what's coming in, what's going out with money. Cash flow is big, especially when you're like looking to get loans and things under the business name. They want to know what your cash flow looks like. How much money do you have at your disposal within the business? How much are you keeping in the business bank accounts? So this statement of cash flow gives you a bird's eye view of those things.
Yeah, and that's important, Shalonda, for those clients who want to scale or who want to grow into something different, and they're obtaining a line of credit or a business loan. The lenders are going to want to know that the business is making some type of profit, and that the loan can be sustained by the business in making those payments.
Yes, that is correct.
So, sometimes we tell our clients, yes, we want to do the legit expenses, and those deductions, but the less it shows that you're making, the less probability you're going to have in actually obtaining a loan or a line of credit.
That's absolutely correct. And even keep in mind, having a business and taking a loss for more than 3 years out of a 5-year period could get you placed in a hobby category with the IRS where you won't even get to write off your expenses. So keep that in mind as well.
So just a quick, just to see what people's opinion is, but I know you have to pay taxes on a lot of the income you make, right? But I know some businesses, they'll buy equipment at the end of the year to not have to pay as much in taxes. So that's kind of a strategy, right? But
Yes.
then you don't show as much income. That's the only bad thing if you ever need a loan, right?
That's correct. Yep, to sum it up. And most people that use that strategy, they're probably already looking at netting probably 6 figures or something in income.
Okay.
So they're trying to find a way to bring the tax liability down as much as possible, but not necessarily going into a negative or being like they're not profitable as a business.
Right. And then if you have I don't know, say you have you know, like 6 figures, if you have like 150K in additional assets for that year, but then you have a loan on a 80K, is it advisable to just like pay it off? That way you show less income for the year and then you still get the depreciation, right?
If you'll still get the depreciation. It just really depends on your situation. If you guys are like in situations where you're netting 6 figures of income, you should be on payroll with your company.
Yeah.
As an S corp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I was going to mention that, Shalonda, is the S corp, when a company becomes an LLC and it converts, to an S corp for their tax advisor, since you do taxes and you know that process. Is it beneficial to do that, and then also adding yourself under the payroll through QuickBooks so that it shows that you're being paid by your company?
It's very beneficial because you get to write off all of those taxes that the company paid and the employer taxes. And then you also already paid your tax liability on your personal taxes.
Okay, I have one other question. It's off topic. Someone may or may not know here. It's just because it's a recent thing that's come up for me. And I don't expect you guys to know, but recently I've had to get the workers' compensation, but they don't cover me as a employee. I have several part-time employees, but they're making me pay like a lot more than really what I'm paying them. But I'm not being covered under that workers' comp, and I do get paid a lot more than they do. Or like 20 times more, 20, So I have like a 100K salary, but I pay out like 20K, or maybe less, or 15K just to my administrative staff. But they're making me do a workers' comp policy for, I don't know, like 60K or something like that. They just kind of automatically did it. I don't know if you deal with that or not, or if that's.
I deal with workers' comp a little bit. But did they say why they won't put you on the workers' comp policy? Are you an S corp? Are you on your actual company's payroll?
I am an S corp, but I mean, I think you can elect, right, to be in it or not. And
yes,
I think
it's an S corp election. And once you take that election, you have to put yourself on payroll. You have to pay yourself through payroll with the taxes and everything coming out.
So I am on payroll. But so can I elect to put myself on the workers' comp or not? Okay.
You can. Yes.
And can they force me, say, like, obviously I'd rather pay workers' comp policy on what I'm paying my part-time staff and not on my salary. So when they just automatically raise the rates without asking me or checking, they can do that, right? That's what they did to me, basically.
Did you turn in all the information that they requested from you on their yearly audit?
They just, I don't think they asked me for anything. They just kind of automatically, I don't know, started out like on 150 a month or something, and then they just bumped it up to 350 and 450, and they were just withdrawing from my account. So I just have like a administrative staff works like 10 hours or whatever a week, you know. And
Yeah, because with workers' comp, as the owner, you have an opportunity to put yourself on there or not put yourself on there, and they shouldn't be basing it off of your salary per se. So is it a new policy?
yeah, it's a new policy. Basically, the ROC required that I provide workers' comp, so I got signed up with the Berkshire and Burke or whatever. And then they quoted me. I put out information online. They quoted me like 150 a month or something, and then all of a sudden, I don't know. They assumed. I think they looked at my website, and since I had a bunch of like part-time employees, or I had a bunch of employees on my website that used to work for me, they assumed my payroll was higher, and it just bumped it up, and just kept bumping up and automatically withdrawing. Like I went up to 350, and from 350 I went to 450, and it just seems like it just keeps climbing and
How
climbing.
long have you had this policy?
Like 3 months, and I just canceled it, but now they're trying to audit me. So
They can audit you, and if you are paying that and they audit you and you show your payroll records were not what they've calculated them at, they're going to have to give you money back.
so that might be a good thing. The only thing I'm worried about if they were basing my workers' comp policy on 40K a year, and my salary is 100K, but employees
They were basing it
like
off of industry
60K.
standards. That's what they were doing, basing off of industry standards.
Okay.
So I just would recommend you getting with an insurance professional
Okay.
to kind of walk you through and shop you for workers' comp to put you in the best position.
Yeah, that would be good. So where would I find someone like that?
If you you can reach out to me, and I have a couple of connections with insurance providers, and I can get you connected as well.
Thank you. Yeah, if you can share your contact on the chat or wherever,
I definitely would do so.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll add your contact information, Shalonda, on the chat from your signature line.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Any other questions that we have pertaining to anything with year-end payroll, salaries for yourself, S corp elections, things like that? Perfect. So again, even if you are an S corp, look into taking out benefit packages, healthcare, 401ks for yourself, because all those expenses are going to be write-offs for you. So they're going to benefit you, and they're going to, as the individual, but also benefit the business for a write-off.
So one other question, do you recommend we just automate everything through QuickBooks? Because right now I have a separate company for payroll, but it seems like if I just put the information here, I don't even need that payroll company, right?
Yeah.
The only good thing is the other payroll company they don't charge that much, and then they do like also vacation time and stuff like that. And I don't know if QuickBooks does that.
Yeah, you can track all of those things in QuickBooks. This sample account is pretty limited, unfortunately, but if you get with me, I can walk you through what it actually looks like with a payroll account and how I can track the time, the vacation times, and all those other good things for you.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Great.
Any other questions? All right. And were there any questions about anything that we covered today inside of QuickBooks? Do you guys feel like you got enough information, not enough information? Anything I need to circle back on?
Shalonda, on the invoices, we have certain clients that bill 50% of the project, and then upon completion, how would you separate those two in one invoice?
You would create, let's see. Let's go create an invoice. Because you really can create two. In all honesty, I would probably create 2 separate invoices just because the due date is going to be based off of the terms on that one invoice. But you can also create it into a statement where they will have a statement to show all the invoices.
Excellent. And on this invoice, you can also attach like the signed contract or the
Mhm.
proposal, correct?
That is correct. Yes, you can attach anything that you want to in here. Maybe you could put messages on the statement, messages on the invoice. You can make, let's see, recurring. I guess if you kind of knew how long the completion was, you could probably make a recurring statement invoice with that, with both lines on it. That's possible, but it's hard to say, right? Where that goes. Let's see if we do add new. Yeah, you kind of have to have a good picture to kind of know in order to put both of those transactions on one invoice, but you definitely can tie them together on the statement.
Okay, thank you.
And when you say that, so are they treating it like a deposit, like the 50% as a deposit on the
Correct.
estimate?
Mhm.
All right, so let's see if we create an estimate. Because you can create the estimate and then convert it as well over as an invoice, and you can partial of the estimate. So say the 50% that they put down, you can convert that over as an invoice when you're ready. And then the other one, you can create an invoice for it when it's ready. So off of the estimate as well.
Yeah, I always wondered if that typically the retainer or is that typically invoice one or not, or that one's kind of tricky. Just a little weird.
It just depends on how you want to set it up. So let's see. There's ways, and I'll put those together for you guys. There's ways. There's a lot of different ways to do things in QuickBooks, but I will put together a scenario and I'll get it over to Vanessa. And she can get that over to you guys when it comes to like deposits and retainers and stuff like that, to be able to drill down further on keeping track of those things.
Thank you, Shalonda. And
You're
I did put your contact information in the chat.
Perfect. Yep. Feel free to reach out to me. It's not tax season quite yet, so I'm free. So definitely, if you guys have questions to get ready for tax season, I'm free to be able to answer those. All right, so let's close out of this.
Excellent.
Yep, so like I said, I'll create some scenarios for you guys to be able to see, get those over to Vanessa. And then if you're using QuickBooks for your invoicing and getting paid, that's going to be your best bet because it's so much off of your plate. You don't have to track down checks to get those cashed and deposited because you can have them paid directly through the payment link in QuickBooks. They can't lie and say that they didn't get your invoice because QuickBooks tell you when it's open. So there's just different things. So if you have QuickBooks, please take full advantage of the tool that is in front of you. I know it's a lot, but it is in your best interest to learn as much as you can about it. Let's see. And like I said, I will put together a payroll scenario as well. So you guys that are interested in using QuickBooks for your payroll, like I said, because this account does not give me the access for a payroll, but I also can't let you guys in my account because of my client's information. So I'll have to create like a dummy account on my side so you guys can see that. as well. And I'll get it recorded. I'll do like a Loom and get it recorded as a walkthrough and get it to Vanessa.
Excellent. Thank you, Shalonda.
You're welcome. Were there any questions that we cover everything? Let's see. I just want to go through my checklist and make sure that we covered everything. So I'll have the slides, the handout over to Vanessa so she can get that over to you guys. And I will also include a year-end checklist that you guys can use to kind of go through and make sure you have everything that you need for like your year-end stuff within QuickBooks. And then there's just a couple of other things that I feel will be useful for you guys as well that I'll get to Vanessa.
Thank you, Shalonda. I am going to stop the recording at this time, and then we can open it up for any other questions or concerns. Let me stop the recording.